America's Big Debt, End of the Royal Line, and Designs on Money. Welcome to Mark and Pete, two blokes with half an opinion. Now, here's our first thought for today.
Fallen stars. Debts are piling and worrying the Fed. The wavering US flag has stripes still in the red. And old Uncle Sam's suit is merely hanging by a thread. And he can't afford American pie because he has no more bread. Yes, well, it seems sadly that the American economy is getting worse. Is that really possible? Well, Donald Trump said his big, beautiful budget was being pushed through Congress this recent times. Unfortunately, though, it will add at least $3 trillion to the debt. Now, this makes a total eye-watering $37 trillion to add to the big debt pile. Well, I ask you, Mr. Pete, is it possible to have a greater mountain of debt, or have we now reached the point where America has just simply gone bust?
Now, I remember Donald Trump early on in his political career, which, it's only about a decade ago, talking about it, something like he was the king of debt, or words to that effect. He was very keen on debt.
Yes.
And the reason was that if you were in debt by a lot, suddenly you're in charge of the situation. There's the old saying, if you have or the well-known situation, which is often referred to in such situations. Whereas if you are in debt to the bank by, say, $1,000, the bank owns you. If you are in debt to the bank by $20 billion, you own the bank. And there's that strange situation where it turns over if it's huge. Now, the reason I say this is America, in addition to have a massive debt, also has by far the biggest military in the world, and it has the biggest economy in the world. So it's not as simple as people say, I'll tell you what, we want our money back, and calling them up on the debt. We refuse to lend you anymore, because America has a lot of soft power from its economy, and we saw Trump using that with his tariffs, and hard power, military power. So I do think it's a problem that it's in debt, but I think the US is in a unique position.
Well, it's in a unique position, I agree. Now, there's a few things from my observation about Donald Trump. I'll park that for the moment. But here's the thing. It needs to keep borrowing money. And this is one of the key things which I think a lot of people are concerned about, how many other people will keep lending Uncle Sam the money. Now, since the beginning of 2025, the dollar has fallen 10% against the pound and 15% against the euro. That's significant. So although US's borrowing costs have steadily sort of grown and they're sort of trying to manage things, as you say, that they are a powerhouse, both in terms of the economy on multiple levels, whether that be in finance, whether it be in manufacturing, and many other different things, there still comes a point where, interestingly, maybe here's then going back to Donald Trump, he's using a technique from his past. Because as we've known, that Donald Trump, the businessman, has often put ventures in place where so many people have lent him such a lot of money that basically they couldn't get out. It got so far into debt that basically they just had to keep carrying on. I'm wondering whether he thinks that that's a technique for the United States of America. Now, okay, maybe that what he's also trying to do, where he's disrupting the market with tariffs and many other things, is trying to level set. And over time, that debt will come down. But right now, it's actually quite a worrying sign for the United States. There's also the other side of it as well, which is around, employment. Many people really vote with what's in their pocket. Basically, it's about whether they've got good jobs, whether they're earning money, and they can feed themselves and pay their way. Now, at the moment, there is very much like many other countries, certainly in the developed worlds, where you have the rich and the poor. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. So I guess really I think it's very early days. But what I would say is this, that he certainly can't continue doing this as a strategy through his term, because that really will put the United States of America in a very bad way. So I'm wondering at what point that he can start to level this out. And I don't see it at the moment. What I see is a lot of disruption. And I'm just wondering whether what he did in his business world can't really apply necessarily to a nation. The nation operates and functions in a totally different way. So, do you think that we should all be worried because we do rely a lot on the United States?
Well, I think it is a concern, but I'm quite optimistic about it because, well, let's take things in turn. One is some of the holdouts for voting on this big, beautiful bill from passing in America, which was that it increased the debt ceiling. Now, increasing the debt ceiling doesn't increase the debt. It increases the amount you're allowed to borrow. It doesn't mean you have to do it.
Yes.
Now, I think that needed to be in place. There's a lot of spending put in place in the bill. In fact, huge amounts on ICE, on the immigration control. And it's now said to be one just the immigration control people, the border agencies, being the big one of the biggest armies in the world, even though it's just the enforcement agency for immigration in the United States. Huge amounts of money on that. More, I believe, on just that than Canada spends on all its military. Now,
Yes.
this is so it's a big amount, and there's lots of other big spending, including, of course, building the wall that is Trump's signature policy. But also, what Trump is doing is bringing in money through tariffs. Now, people argue, I think, correctly, that tariffs are not just a tax on other countries. They ended up being a tax on the people in your own country, because if you tax products coming into the country, then people who make the products can just put up the price of the product. However, it doesn't all get handed over. It doesn't all happen like that, because in many cases people made the same product, in this case in the United States, so you would become uncompetitive if you put it up too much. So America, being such a huge economy, can get away with these things and is bringing in, so far already, a few, according to Trump, a few $100 billion. And so he's hoping to pay off some of this debt, is what I'm saying. And if the economy does turn around over the next few years, he'll be vindicated. But that won't be soon enough not to have to lift the debt ceiling. So I think it is turning, but it's like turning a huge oil tanker out at sea.
Yes.
It's going to turn slowly. So yeah, I think it does need to get further into debt. But if it's heading in the right direction, then I think that the markets, crucially, and other countries are going to see how it's heading and not be worried that America is going to be a poor, which is the way, poor debtor, poor creditor, whichever word it is. They're not going to not be able to pay back the interest on the loans, but rather they are, if they continue, the economy continues to be improving. I think people will want to continue to loan to them, because then you get all those interest repayments.
Well, there is that. I mean, the other positive thing you could say about the United States is to look at it in a different way, and it's about a percentage of a country's income.
Yeah.
Now, the US economy typically produces income of around 25 trillion a year, which is a lot of money. So that's fine, because it's nowhere near in percentage terms as bad as, say, Japan or Italy. And, they are relative wealthy countries in the scheme of things. I was interested by a comment that was made by an observer, an analyst, who said, who basically had a book that was written in the 1960s. It was called The Death of the Dollar by William F. Rickenbacker. Now, he warned at the time the risks to the dollar status as the world's reserve currency. Now, although Mr. Rickenbacker is no longer alive, the dollar still is. But what it was said was, it doesn't mean that its status and value is a divine right. Interesting. And now let's move on to another story. Is it the end of the royal line? Since Queen Victoria, the royal train has been on the incline. like Regal choo-choo chuffers, but today they've come to the end of the line and hit the budget buffers. Well, yes, the Royal train is going to be taken out of service by 2027. Why? Well, quite simply, it's a cost-saving measure announced by Buckingham Palace. Yes, this is something that since Queen Victoria's reign, yes, way back, all the way to the 19th century, we have seen that this particular train has been going up and down the country, meeting the public and historically showcasing in a PR way the royal family. Now, Mr. Pete, I ask you that we're in very difficult times, and of course, it's hitting the royal finances. What say you about the closure of this particular service?
Well, it's a shame, isn't it? These things coming to an end. I mean, it may be a bit of a Victorian relic. You travel around in different ways these days, but it does seem a bit of a shame. I always liked the idea of them having a special train. I mean, maybe it was only used a few times, and I think 2023 it was used twice. Is that right? I don't know if you have those details. And cost £80,000. I
A
mean,
lot of money.
yes, but its upkeep these days would consume over £1 million. I mean, should they? Oh, I mean, how are they going to get about though? That's what I would like to know. Because here's
Well,
my question.
I could tell you.
Well, you tell me in a minute. Because when it comes to it, let me
Yes.
just say, is it going to be sustainable? Is it going to be reusable, recyclable? Is it going to be good for the environment? This change, because trains could be electric. Just saying.
Well, indeed. But let's just explain. So, obviously, the royal family have decided to cut the budgets. Yes. And as you mentioned, that it's not just the royal family that has to pay out, the nation has to pay out on security services and many others. So, the royal family will now still travel, but on regular train services. Yes, you too, Mr. Pete, can travel with the royal family. Maybe they might assign one of the carriages, possibly to themselves. But what's interesting is the cost of trips and what it means. You mentioned about £80,000. It's more than that because, of course, obviously the upkeep, the security services, and many other different things, including the food and many others. Believe me, they won't just be getting British Rail pork pie. And as nice as they are, of course, it's the mould. I always like those and the crusty bits that fall
British
off.
Rail went out of business many years ago, so they would be quite mouldy by now.
Exactly. But what's also interesting is the annual report that covers the royal family's trips also showed that in the last year they spent 475,000 on 101 helicopter trips. Now, I know that that's nowhere near as much as you, Mr. Pete, getting about your business. As it's just a drop in the ocean for you. But yeah, it does show that, it's even hitting those members of the royal family. You tend to sort of think of the grand pageants and the wealth and opulence that comes with the royal family. But now, I'm afraid they're basically back onto bargain budgets and bargain trips. They'll be looking out for EasyJet and maybe hiring a bicycle from.
I think they should cycle. To be honest,
cycle around the country.
Cycle and recycle. Yes. That's the way. But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about the helicopters because helicopters are not really sustainable fuel powered, are they?
No, no.
And I'm suspecting that although there'll be much talk about them using regular trips on the regular trains, they'll be going by helicopter and plane.
Yes, because if they did, I can assure you they won't meet the destination in
time. No, that's right. They'll be late.
Oh dear, disruption and queues.
We couldn't have that happening. So I think it is good that the royal family, is realistic about how they handle their finances. But if we can't have a dedicated train for the head of state, then where are we? I mean, I don't think I don't think it saves that much that over the grand scheme of things, it will bring any more tears to the Chancellor's eye.
No, that's probably true. Well, look, for those who are obviously royalists around the country, I'm sure that they probably think that this might be a bit of a come down. But I am pleased to think that maybe that cost-saving exercise does reflect where Britain is today. Let's move on to a different story, and this is all about face value. If you like making money, then design a note for the nation. It's an opportunity to be fiscally funny with your own face in circulation. Yes, Mr. Pete. It could be you. Yes,
Yes.
banknotes issued by the Bank of England are about to get their first major redesign for more than 50 years. What's
Yes.
interesting is that traditional historical figures such as Winston Churchill and Florence Nightingale, yes, they're all things of the past, maybe. But what we're now being encouraged to do in the very near future is that the public are being asked to think about what kind of imagery should we have on the national notes. Mr. Pete, I would love to see your face on the national currency, maybe the £2.50 note,
Yeah.
maybe,
What? Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
£3.75 note. Yes, they don't exist, folk. But either way, I'd still like to see them. But yes, yes, the £5, the £10, the £20, and indeed the £50 notes could actually have either British birds, bridges, bangers and mash, or maybe something else. What say you? What do you think provides a good image for national identity on our currency?
Well, it seems to me a very strange thing to be doing. As someone said, I saw someone quote online, said, asking the public is actually just a publicity exercise. It's not really asking the public in any real sense about what they like the themes, because you can seems to be you can take in ideas about the themes for your banknotes, etc. Um, but you can then just make your own decision anyway. So it's really just a bit like the public consultations that happen when someone's going to build a huge shopping centre next to your little village. You know, they appear to be taking in public sensibilities, but really, um, money talks. You know, the feature here that I'm interested in, that we already have banknotes with people such as Churchill on the notes, people who are well-known public figures. Is there anything wrong with that? Why the change? I mean, are we looking
Yes.
to replace them with more politically correct figures, people who are not really, maybe in fact, they should have someone else, maybe some of the leaders of Hamas or Ayatollah Khomeini on banknotes. That would be more suitable.
Well,
What do you think?
Well, I look, I mean, for me, I think it's typically about those who have achieved something. So scientists or
Yeah,
writers
sure.
or, people who have innovated typically tend to sort of get onto the notes. What's interesting as well is that they often are people, and typically the way it was done is that whether you appeared on a banknote or on a stamp or so on, you had to be dead. But the fact is that now times are changing. But there are some very, very interesting things that have been highlighted. Some people have been suggesting that it could be anything from a ship to maybe famous landmarks such as Stonehenge. But what's interesting is some people have also suggested they have classic sitcoms such as Faulty Towers. Now, when you think about something controversial, maybe that might be going a little bit too far.
Well, I
But,
think Faulty
I mean, I
Towers
don't
is
know what
quite
you
good
think.
symbolism for how Britain's being run at
Yes.
the moment. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, quite. But I mean, for me, I was wondering, and this is just one from me. I would love to see something like Wallace and Gromit on there. Very British, very, very quirky. It's not really a person as such, but it really gets to the psyche of humour. And Britain is very noted for being humorous. And let's be honest, there's a lot to laugh at.
Yeah.
But the fact is that something like that might be a little bit quirky. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm all for something quirky and unusual. I mean, something that's quintessentially British. Good idea. But my question is, why are we doing it? I mean, does anyone use cash anymore? I mean,
That's true.
I just looked up the figures. The nearest figure that I
Yeah.
had was 2023. UK cash payments dropped to only 14%, 14% of all transactions.
Yes.
So there's this big push not to use cash, and then suddenly you're redesigning the notes. What are you doing? You're trying to get people back to using cash. In which case, I'm all for it. I do think we should try and keep cash alive, and I'm sort of fighting a losing battle trying to spend cash. Because often
Yes.
people don't want it.
Yeah.
A few people, like my hairdresser, only accepts cash, for example, but most people want it paid online. Or with your card or with your phone, don't they? So
That's it.
the design of the banknote, I think, has become less important.
Well, there we go. I wonder what our public think about this. Do they have some ideas about what should be denoted on our new currency? Is it really a good idea, or is it just a PR stunt? What do you think?
Yes, let us know. Remember, just a Bible verse for today, Matthew chapter 6, verse 12. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Thoughts for banknotes? Thoughts about debt? Yes, let us know. Just simply go to markandpete.com. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Then you can leave a comment on this and every episode. But from Mark and myself, for this week, that's all we've got for you. So catch you next time.